You're listening to Traumedy, the podcast that helps you transmute your trauma with comedy. I'm Nancy Norton. I'm a comedian. I'm a registered nurse. I'm studying therapeutic humor, and I'm a keynote speaker. I love going around sharing the power of humor with whoever will have me. And I have a lot of conferences coming up for healthcare events, and the Central California Women's Conference is coming up with Brooke Shields. Just thought I'd drop that in there. I'm pretty excited about my path these days, but most importantly, I want to be of service. It's something at this age that is more important than anything to me, that I make a difference in the world. And I hope that this podcast is helping you. It's helping me. And I guess that's making a difference in my family because I feel better. Let me know if there's anything you want covered on Traumedy, or if you want to come on Traumedy. My guest this week is a listener of Traumedy, and I'm so honored. Here we go. It is part 2 with Wendi Friesen, hypnotherapist. And I did a hypnotherapy session. I think you should go back and listen to part 1 if you haven't heard part 1 before you hear part 2. Wendi Friesen, episode 22. This is episode 23, following up with a story that is captivating and has a surprising twist. And I want to say I did a hypnotherapy session with Wendi before my keynote in Nashville for the OR nurse managers, because I struggle with going back and forth from left to right hemisphere. I love being in my, creative part of my mind, the right hemisphere. But then when I try to do a keynote PowerPoint or something and I drop into the left side, it's hard for me to integrate the sillies. You may even see that on the podcast because I struggle a little bit, like, oh, I'm the clown. No, I'm a compassionate listener. I'm an educator, and trying to integrate all of that. And Wendi helped me clear so many blocks and was able to step forward and just be me. If you want to work with Wendi Friesen, you can too. Go to her website. She's got all kinds of packages available. I'm so impressed. Here comes part 2, the rest of the story. What happens with the wealthy client from Qatar? We're back. All right, let me go ahead. All right. Oh, welcome to Traumedy. My guest this week is part 2 with this amazing hypnotherapist, the hilarious Wendi Friesen. We are picking up in the middle of a story about the time she got called by a dignitary, a leader of Qatar, to meet her in Amsterdam to do some sort of hypnotherapy to help him get laid. I'm curious about it. What happened? First of all, back up just slightly, just in case people are listening and didn't hear part 1.
There's an email. It was AOL days. That's the only way to get email. And one email that says, I want to hypnotize women for sex. Money is no object. And while my fingers going to the delete button, of course, I didn't delete it. And I thought, I want to find out what's going on. There was no name, really. It was just kind of an email address.
And again, back to the vote for curiosity. Like, I'm sort of, there's something in me that's curious. Yeah. And also the way you got led to hypnotherapy through curiosity. You just happened to see an ad for hypnotherapy and look at, so that was, I just want to affirm that what you said on the first part was about that being curious rather than just assuming.
Yeah. And also for me, from the last episode about flying all the way to New York to be on a talk show, and how I had to have the bravery and stuff to do that, even though I'd never done that. And you guys go back and listen to that episode, because all of us have that courage, but we constantly talk ourselves out of it. Now, every hypnotherapist who I've shared this story about, this amazing client, said, oh, no, you can't do that. You can't go there. No, that's going to be dangerous. You're going to get kidnapped or something. So I had all the fear. But the coolest thing was the flight I took over there. It wasn't just first class, but there's some planes that have this special compartment below the pilots, and you enter from the front of the plane. It like drops down and opens up, and you go in, and there's like 8 beds, and they come up to me and say, what size pajamas would you like, ma'am? And I'm like, okay, don't blow it. What size pajamas? I said, medium.
Medium.
Because they take care of everything, and they make this bed for you. And
I've never heard of this. I think I've only even traveled first class once, and this is way beyond that. Oh my gosh. Yeah. But were you scared that that compartment in itself could have been a bit of a, I don't know, an escape room? Or
Yeah.
did you feel, how did it feel when that thing
Oh, it's
opened?
great.
It did? You
But
felt
it's
okay.
yeah, but it's like the totally out of my comfort zone because I was a very poor single mom with two kids, little kids, and they were always turning off my utilities, and I was never quite on top of it yet because this was in the early days of my hypnotherapy work. I was so broke. Oh my God. So I get there, and when I went into the hotel, it was a beautiful hotel, and I told the front desk, I said, I'm here to see so and so, and I have no idea who he is, but I just want you to keep an eye on me, like, so I don't disappear or something. The guys at the front desk are kind of giggling, and they said, seriously, I don't know who this guy is. And they're just giggling because they know him really well. They said,
He's
don't
a
worry, you're fine.
regular at this
Yeah.
hotel.
So he's got the entire, the very top level suite of the entire hotel. That's his, whatever. So every day, he is a really, really wonderful man. And every day I went up to his suite and we did hypnotherapy work for his issues of not feeling good enough and feeling inferior and not feeling like he amounts to anything. And yet he's one of the wealthiest men. He owns all the banks in Qatar. He's not the director of the banks. He owns all the banks in Qatar, which is the wealthiest country in the world.
My head is just shaking like ding ding, like a
Yeah.
cartoon, like cannot comprehend this level of wealth, but okay.
And I didn't know that until I met him, and then he said, okay, this is the deal. Very, very nice man, but he's about 4'8", 4'9" or something. He's very short, and he has some birth defects of an arm that doesn't move properly and stuff. So he had a lot of insecurities. So no matter what level of success that you have, achievement, things that you still have your issues, as this man did. And his insecurities and his unworthiness and all of that from his childhood, growing up, with disabilities, that was still his main thing and just didn't feel worthy. And he says, I can get laid by anybody. There's supermodels that live in my house.
Yeah.
Here all the time. But he didn't feel worthy. And I think all of us understand what that's about, right?
Yes, I get it.
Mm-hmm. And you think about, wow, someone in that position that feels unworthy. And we worked on every day. We did like probably 3 or 4 hours a day and doing some therapeutic work. It was just amazing and beautiful. And right now I've got my hand on my heart because I just loved his experience so much and honored however it was that he found me and allowed me to come and do this with him, because other people wouldn't have. They, because I'm kind of stupid. Like, oh yeah, sure.
Well, and I know you're teasing yourself about being stupid, but that there was a wise part of you that knew, and this is me. I believe I've been having so many spiritual and psychic experiences, and I have belittled myself. And again, even with my, whatever I was saying earlier, on the other one with the slow rise to mediocrity, when we know, you know what I mean? Like but it's good to have, I think it's good to laugh at ourselves. And sometimes we are naive. Like I was naive when I went to adopt my son. I thought everybody was in the adoption business for the good of the children. I was so naive about some of the things that happened there. Yeah, you might have been naive, but another part of you was called. And I have my hand on my heart because I just wanted to attune with, this man who really he didn't, maybe he wanted sex, of course. I know it's a strong drive. I don't underestimate the power of the life force, but he wanted love. He wanted self-love, and he wanted to experience love with another person. And like I said, because of, I have known some sex addicts who have gone to prostitutes, and that is a hollow victory. It is not a good feeling when you leave I shouldn't say for all people, but I have heard from the people I know that it was not a good feeling to leave having paid for sex. And
Yeah.
Maybe you got a release, maybe whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
But this is beautiful. So he was able,
Yeah.
because, gosh, my friend Cody Spiker was just here coaching me on my keynote, because that's another thing I want to do hypnotherapy about. But
Yay.
she was coaching me because I've learned to call in resources now. Like, okay, here's my skill set, but here's where I need help. But Cody's great with organizing. But I was talking to her about how do we deal with these, the power discrepancy between the doctors and nurses. But this goes back to what you were saying. And she drew these concentric circles because she's studying, what is the name of it? Power dynamics. But she was drawn this circle about personal power. Then she drew the next circle, which was social power. Like that's where the patriarchal and the wealth and all that. And then another circle, which was, I think, a global power, community power, all this stuff. But what she pointed out to me was that people who often have status have very little personal power, and they're compensating. So they're compensating for a lack of personal power, but it doesn't really ever satisfy.
Right. And you don't have that feeling of your status because you didn't grow up with that belief about yourself. You had all these other doubts and insecurities that kept pulling you back down to like, oh, you're nothing. You're just a fraud. And, everybody thinks you're somebody, but deep down you're not. And we all go through those dips in our life many times,
Yeah. Well, it's sort of like the whole fake it till you make it. But even when you make it, you still feel like you're faking it. If you're
totally.
So
totally.
So
I know that one.
Well, and that's fun to laugh at because I think, this whole Earth experience is hilarious. The roles that we play, and I don't know. But tell me more about this man. Like, what was the transformation like for him after working with you?
Yeah, it was pretty powerful because some of the stuff we worked on was him being a child, and he had one leg shorter than the other and an arm shorter than the other, so he couldn't play with the other kids. And he's sitting on the steps of the palace, and nobody will play with him. And so that was his upbringing, was that belief, and for him to engage with that inner child and do some work on forgiveness and that those things aren't true and bringing that love back to that. Oh my gosh, the experience of reclaiming your inner child, and I know that's kind of an overused expression, but to actually experience it and let that not be the pain that you're living with, but rather let it be the strength and the love of reconnecting is so immensely powerful. And so after that, he kept in touch a little bit, just a few emails, and how happy he was and how well he was doing. And he says, turns out it's not about sex, but I'll have sex sometime, but I'm really happy about myself, and I'm really happy about my life and my position in life and everything. So yeah, he did really good. It was just amazing. Oh my gosh.
I love hearing that. And I'll bet you the ripple out, I mean, I'm just guessing the ripple out effect from that is that he treated women better and he treated himself better and treat other people better. Because when we love ourselves, and this is something to me, it's kind of interesting with the patriarchy too, is that when people abuse their patriarchal privilege, is that part of them compensating for that exiled child, that part of them, that inner child that felt powerless, and that powerlessness that all of us have felt. I mean, all of us when we came into the world were very dependent on our parents, and depending on how they gave love, and most of us got conditional love. It's just the way they learned it, the way it's been taught. So there's always, we're all terrified of abandonment,
Conditional love, yeah. And our parents didn't know. And we've got to understand that it wasn't that they were trying to damage us, but they didn't know because they didn't feel loved. They had no training or anything in their life that was about being loved. Like, my mom and dad probably had over 10 children in their families, so their parents didn't have any time or energy for them. They had to work on their own farm because that's the only way they got food, and on and on. So there wasn't anything to give them that self-worth. But one of the sessions I did with his inner child thing was after we were done with the session, he says, I loved that little boy. It's not okay. I'm not allowed to love myself. And I was like, oh my God, that's the belief in their culture, is that you can't love yourself. But he
Uh-huh.
loved that little boy that was him. So we got past that where it was okay for him to love himself, but he had to hear it from something that wasn't his cultural beliefs and royalty and everything, that was, you don't love yourself. So isn't that interesting how we have a lot of beliefs about ourselves from our childhood, that we're not lovable or that we're bad or mistakes we've made, marriages that have, everything. And we've got to get back to that connection that we do love ourselves, that we are absolutely okay and lovable and worthy. And
Yeah.
it's a big journey, and I know, because, as women, we're climbing out of a really deep, dark experience of being raised by our parents.
Right. In this culture. And I just got a nugget from you that I just want to take it in, that belief that it's bad to love yourself. And because
Yeah.
it's not the kind of ego love, it's not the narcissistic kind of love, which narcissism, we know is the falling in love with your own reflection or how I look to people or, what it appears. But it's the deeper, the actual self-love that softens you and makes you more compassionate and have more empathy and have more
Wow.
connection. I can connect with your heart because I can connect with my heart. And it's totally different than that narcissistic kind of love. Totally. I mean, it's absolutely probably opposite of it, because narcissism
Wow.
is compensating, right?
Right.
Narcissus was
Right.
compensating for self-hate, or I don't know. I don't know
Yeah.
mythology. I didn't do my homework, but I know of it.
Well, if you're going around bragging about all of your, conquests or building them up or something, that's the thing we don't want to do. We can still um, inspire people
Yeah.
to be better. And, the things I talk about, they could come out as bragging, but they're also coming out as inspiration, I believe, that I
Yes.
want all of you to think bigger or to let go of what you thought you were and go ahead and take some chances and find out what it's like to be the person you want to be, no matter how scary it is. Because breaking through that is such a huge accomplishment. And right now, my mind is flashing back to one of the first things I did in front of an audience. It was at the community center, and I had never spoken to a group before, and it was only like, I don't know, 15 people that showed up or something. I was so terrified.
Yeah. Public
I was so
speaking,
scared.
number one fear.
Yeah, because I was unworthy. I was, in my mind, a nobody. And I had no idea that I knew something that people would love. And if you find that out about yourself, of what you have that is a special gift that people will love, it is, oh, duh, transformational in your life. And and you can continue to grow it from there. But you have to experience it and put yourself in some scary situations to get past it.
Yeah. And what I'm taking into the trying to finesse this idea of celebrating victories without, because like when I say over and over, I won the Boston Comedy Festival. Now, the reason,
Right on, high five.
yeah, but I often will say it took me 30 years to do that, because one of the reasons, well, obviously that's a lot. I mean, I've 10,000 hours. I kept telling myself, Nancy, you've done the 10,000 hours, get the $10,000. But which I did, right? And it helped me. I fed my family. But man, there has been this part of me that I always was a choker. I just, like I said, it was all about, I'm not good enough. I don't have a right to tell people this. My mother told me I shouldn't be talking. This whole self-doubt, all the doubt and shame. And so I'm very proud that whatever it was, that I was able to allow myself to do my best when it was on the line. And I really was all I wanted. And this is, since I was a kid, I wanted to be on the Tonight Show. And I never did manifest that, but I wanted one last chance at that. There's still a little kid in me that I have to cry a little bit. Like right now, I feel sad.
Yeah.
Like that 4-year-old is sad. But because
and being so unworthy of that is at the core of this.
Yeah.
that you don't deserve it.
But there
Yeah.
was a knowing in me that is my purpose. And I knew it when
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
4. And it was like,
Wow.
I was watching the Tonight Show going, I will do that. And
Wow.
and in Springfield, Missouri, there was no like path. And, the path I took was what my parents taught me, which my dad was an artist and my mother, but he ended up being a salesman. He wanted to be a musician. That makes me cry
Oh.
for him. And he was a gifted,
Oh.
okay,
Yeah.
I gotta have a tear, but he was a gifted musician. Like that guy could pick
Oh.
up any instrument. And you talk about intuition. He could play. You hand him anything. It doesn't even matter if it even existed before. He could find the music in it.
Wow.
And
Wow.
his voice was beautiful. I will play a
Oh.
clip of him on here. Oh man, I'm so sentimental. I feel really vulnerable sharing that my little 4-year-old was crying and that my dad, and I want to say daddy because I was in such a young place when I was recording this podcast. My dad, I have this recording I made of him in 1972 at a Christmas service at Messiah Lutheran Church in Springfield, Missouri. And my dad loved singing, so that's really the main reason I think we went to church. And I was sitting next to the organ with my little tiny tape recorder holding up the microphone as high as I could, although I picked up a lot more of the organ music. And insert your organ jokes here. Okay, let's see. So here's my dad. I'm just going to play a snippet right here.
When I was a miner, I sought both night and day. I asked the Lord to help me, and He showed me the way. Go tell it on the mountain.
Okay, I just love his voice. He just has there's an emotion behind it. There's just a tenderness in there. It's just a place he could let himself emote, in my opinion. And if you want to hear the entire Go Tell It on the Mountain, I'll put it on at the very end of the podcast if anyone is wanting to hear the whole song. It's about a 2.5-minute song, and it's more of a Christmas song, but I just thought, hey, I'll put it on here. And if anyone wants to hear it, there it is. It'll be at the very end of the podcast. But my dad did not get to fulfill his heart's desire of being a musician. And he had kids, and he's like, I had to decide. He had a sponsor. It was a banker who wanted to sponsor him going on the road. And he said, I have kids. I've got to buy bunk beds. So he went and did the security thing, which was become a chemical salesman, McKesson Chemical. That we all, I'm part of the problem. Anyway, they fed my family. And then, my mother was a nurse. So I was an art major for like 2 years. My dad had a BFA. He also was a fine artist. He was an amazing painter. But my dad's true self was an artist. That's so wild to me. And then he became a salesman. But then my mother, always wanted to be a nurse and was a very good nurse. But anyway, my point is this. Man, I knew that from a young age. And I just had to grieve just now with you because I did not fulfill that. But I trust my path. I think that could have, who knows, my ego would have got so reinforced. It's probably, I do trust it's for the highest good that I want to talk about now, being of service. And as there's such a shift in my life path right now about wanting to use my skills for the highest good. And yes, my ego's still in there. Yes, I love the accolades. I love when we're laughing together. I love when people say, you're so funny, or, there is this little kid in me that still loves that. Feeling special.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Well, especially sounds like your background and mine are kind of similar with the unworthiness and being ignored and not given any kind of life direction or anything. And we had to figure it out for ourselves. So it's good to be proud of ourselves right now. And it doesn't mean we're egotistical. It means that we're proud of what we have achieved without anyone helping us, just by our own grit and it's really important to, give ourselves a lot of credit
Yeah,
for what
give us
we've done.
credit. Yeah, and the beauty of trusting your inner voice, trusting that inner voice that led you to that article, your inner voice that led you to hypnotherapy, that led you to different people, that you got on such a big platform that I know, I mean, I'm excited about the transformation that you are still creating in the world with your work.
Yeah,
It's amazing,
yeah,
Wendi. So thanks for
yeah.
sharing that. Yeah, I just need to, and I'm one of those people that whatever it is, my feelings are pretty immediate and I just let them
Yeah,
move. I do. And
yeah.
yeah, so when I went to Boston, I was just practicing to do 4.5 minutes under pressure because the last time I was on television, I felt like I was okay, but I knew my
Mhm.
muses were, I couldn't access my muses as well as I wanted. And I
Mhm.
also, the talent coordinator for the Colbert Show was,
Oh,
yeah, she was supposed to be,
oh,
or she was supposed to be the judge for the finals,
yeah.
but she didn't show up. But the point,
Gosh.
yeah, that's all I was going to say. That's why I went there, was just maybe I could get on fulfill this, like, bookend this, whatever started at 4 years old.
Yeah.
Let that go, but I can let it go.
For people who are listening, and from what you're saying, whatever your fear is, just remember that to get past it, the main thing is go into the future, an imaginary future, while you're relaxed, eyes closed, and plant yourself in that future when it's already happened, that like, wow, I'm on stage on TV and people love what I'm saying and doing and whatever it is, or I'm, in
I'm
this comedy
helping
festival.
people. I'm helping
Yeah,
people love themselves. And yeah.
right. So then your brain has a memory, which is the same as real memories of your past, but it has an imagined memory that holds this power that says, oh, I've already done this. I was really good and people loved me. And a false memory is really helpful to get you to really own that belief and be able to follow through and not chicken out and be really good at what you're doing, no matter what it is you're getting ready to do, especially for people who are getting ready to go on stage and speak for any event. Oh boy. You want to have the memory in your brain that you already did it. The audience loved you. They're all clapping and happy. And you're like, wow, I totally nailed that. So you want that memory to be solid because your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between a real and an imagined event. Just remember that. It doesn't know the difference. We do consciously know the difference. But if our subconscious doesn't know, it already is believing that, wow, this already happened.
I
Yes, yes,
love
yes,
this,
yes, yes.
Wendy. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
That's a huge gift to me and everyone listening, because
it
what's the
is.
opposite of that is when we put out our fear and we rehearse our fear, which is something I had done in the past when I had bombed on so many competitions. I mean, I used to call myself a choker instead of a joker, right? I choked and I would just throw it. And I still sometimes, every now and then, I can let my fear get ahead of me. And then that's the same power, right? If that's in my subconscious and I'm seeing people
Yeah,
judging me or saying,
yeah.
I mean, I have that fear. But then, so what do you do? How do you redirect? Like, because, don't think of a pink elephant. How do you redirect? How do you redirect from a fear to a positive thought? Do you have any
Right.
tips for that?
Yeah, this is really important because if you think about your brain being like a search engine and you're going to get ready to jump on stage to do something or an interview somewhere, whatever it is, your brain is searching for something that matches the emotional experience that you're expecting, which is I'm going to totally lose it. I'm going to be humiliated. I can't do this because I'm not worthy, and it's going to access all these things. So your brain doesn't have the experience of it already having happened. And that's the problem is your brain is a search engine, and we're only searching for all those failures because those are the deepest seated emotions and the most, what the emotions that have the most power. So the more you do it, which is basically just closing your eyes, imagining, and I like you to go into the future and go into several points in your future where you've already accomplished this. So this biggest lesson for me when, like I said, I was a single mom and I didn't have any money.
Yeah, been
Oh
there.
boy. So what I did, and I was a hypnotherapist and I was, struggling, but getting there. I took myself on a path in my mind just by myself. I was walking on this path through a beautiful forest and going into the future. So I'm taking myself a month into the future, 6 months in the future. And on this path, I didn't know what to expect. But I just decided that I will plant myself in a point in this future. It's like kind of like a timeline where I've already been very successful at this. Even though I didn't believe it consciously, I did it anyway. So I ended up, this is kind of the short version.
No, you don't have to do the short version. I was actually kind of doing hypnotherapy with you. I was just sitting here with my eyes closed, seeing this path. I mean, I'm in it. I don't know. I just don't want you, don't feel rushed.
Okay. So on this path, you're going into like 1 month in the future and 2 months and 6 months in the future. And for me, at one point, this big, horrible, awful brick wall came up and stopped me that I couldn't keep going. And I thought, wow, this is really weird. And I was just by myself doing this on my own. And I asked that wall, why are you here? And the wall said, I'm your father. Oh, and it was about all the things that I felt about not being worthy, and the boys in the family got so much more handed to them and so much more attention, and women were unworthy. And that wall was that whole message that you can't go any further or farther, whichever one's correct.
I gotta do the joke right here. Deacon Gray just popped in. He's an angel on the other side. And he used to have a joke, and here it is. It fits so perfectly. For literal distance, it's farther. For figurative distance, it's further. True. And for emotional distance, it's father.
Oh, got it.
I'm going to play
English lesson.
Okay, back to you. So this brick wall, and you're having feelings. Yeah. You're having feelings right now that hurt so much. That's a deep wound.
Yeah. The breakthrough, though, is just as emotional of taking that wall down and just smashing the fuck out of that wall and getting it down. So then the path was there in front of me, wide open, beautiful nature and everything else going all the way to 1 year in the future. And in the process of taking that wall down, it wasn't so much anger as my father didn't know any different. He grew up in a world where men were valued and women had babies, whatever. And he just didn't know any better. Yeah. And I got that message so loud and clear. So I went to 1 year in the future. And at 1 year in the future, apparently I had written a book. And there were like all these people in my vision that had bought my book and they were really liking it. And I was like, that's really weird. But it's okay. Just, just stay with it. And I had at that point made $1 million in sales of my audios and stuff that I was selling online. I didn't really have much, but that was my vision, right? And all these people were so grateful. And I can still see it right now. This was 30 years ago, and it's still crystal clear. So then I floated back into the present moment, bringing with me all the things that I learned consciously, subconsciously, whatever. And this is a process. The timeline thing is a real process that's life-changing. Came back to the present moment with it. And again, I was a single mom with barely a pot to piss in, but I was hanging in there. 1 year later, to the week that I had experienced this, 1 year later, I had made $1,050,000 or something. It was like sales were just over $1 million.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to do this. I got to put on my sound. I don't know if you can hear, but I have a sound machine.
There.
Okay. You manifested it almost to the dollar. I mean, like $1,050,000. That's incredible and inspiring. I just want to be with it. Wow.
Yeah. And I had also after this, the hypnosis experience, I had put a little Post-it note on the monitor of my computer that said 1 million or more by that date, whatever it was, let's say June or something. So it was sitting there the whole time. What happened was that I did things differently because I saw that Post-it note every day and I knew that, okay, this is really impossible. You can't really, make things like that happen, but who knows? We'll see. But I did things differently. I took more chances. I started a weekly group that met every week, and it turned into like 40, 50 people every week that I was speaking to. So I got over my fear of speaking and whatever it was. And the other thing in that vision was I opened the door to my beautiful house, because apparently I had bought a house at that point in the future. And it wasn't, I'm buying a house. It was, I opened the door to my beautiful house. And in my mind, I had gone in and done cartwheels all over the house. So I still remember this.
I love it.
And in that same week, that was that 1 year in the future, I was handed the keys to this beautiful brand new house in a beautiful neighborhood. And it was mine. Against all odds, I opened the door to my beautiful house because those words were there. So, Nancy, so many people don't have those words cemented in. They haven't taken any time to think, what could I do instead of feeling hopeless and scared and fearful and nothing's worked out and living with all my mistakes of the past? But we gotta get to where you have a different belief so that when you think about the future, your brain goes to like, oh yeah, I got a house coming out.
Yes. And I know that needs to happen on a subconscious level to really transform it. Cause
right.
we know that we cannot talk our way out of certain trauma experiences and survival traits. And that's where I feel like with my mom, my brick wall was built more by her than my dad, which feels like a deeper betrayal in a weird way. But I know it wasn't. It was her way. She survived this way. She thinks I should survive the same way. But all of a sudden I pictured on your desk a brick with like gold lettering. Thank you, Dad. You did your best. How do we dismantle those brick walls with, now my parents are dead. So I have a lot of liberation because of it. Because it was it was insulting to them, and I think even threatening to them that I am living my life's dream. Because how dare they? It's kind of a harsh reminder that they didn't get to live their life dream. My mother shamed me so deeply for being a lesbian when I was with women. Now I don't identify as a lesbian. I was fired as a lesbian. Anyway.
You're fired?
I was fired.
Who's in charge of firing lesbians?
My ex, she fired me. I got fired by the whole lesbian community. No, I mean, it's a joke, but it's kind of true. She had a lot of minions. There were a lot of lesbians hating on old Nance because I threw a guitar, and that is like... That is the lesbian. That is like the lesbian. What is it? They're one of their spirit guides, like folk music. Anyway, I know I'm digressing, but the point is, how do we dismantle? Because my mother, I think, had a secret love for a former nursing school student, like when she was a student. And because she would talk about this woman and light up when she'd talk about Rudy. Rudy. And when Rudy died, my mother loved my dad, but there was something that she had for Rudy. And it's just like but the shame of being a lesbian, the shame that she felt that she couldn't honor that love. And I'm making this up. My family, if they hear this, they probably don't listen to my podcast anyway. It's okay. It's my own experience, okay? I'm guessing. I don't know for sure. But my point is, why else would she so vilify my lesbianism? Why would she try to kill herself when I am coming out on Evening at the Improv? She literally did an overdose and wrote me a suicide letter telling me what a cruel daughter I was.
Oh my.
Literally.
Oh my.
I still have the letter and I need to do a ceremony with it.
Yes, you do.
But I'm saying when you took down that brick wall, because your dad put it there thinking he's helping you, and it's like, in the Bible, and if you grew up in that family, honor your mother and father, honor thy mother and father, and you're dishonoring him in a way by taking down the brick wall, but you're honoring yourself. And I remember saying these words to my mother when one of her best friend's son, he changed his last name because he is a guardian of the forest, and he changed his last name to Forest because he's a beautiful, lovely earth guardian. And she said, how do you think that makes his parents feel that he took away the family name? And I said, well, Mom, what's more important, to honor yourself or your parents? And she paused for so long. And she went, She goes, well, that's a rock in a hard place. And I thought, sure as shit is. But do you know what I'm saying? How do we dismantle these survival traits that were taught to us with good intentions? But Wendi, how do we dismantle loving blocks? Like those were blocks that were put there with love.
Yeah, it's most of it is in my experience and working with so many people who are, they don't even realize that they're still holding on to those old beliefs and what you experienced and just described. We can ask to forgive the person, but sometimes that doesn't sit well because how can I forgive my parent who sexually abused me or did this or that and whatever. But it's accepting that that's what happened, and that doesn't mean less about you and who you are and what you deserve. And just knowing that that experience can, like, if you're doing it on my timeline kind of situation and you're there imagining your parent being there, that we can release them from that. Now, the phrase that I like is that they were doing the best they could. And this sometimes makes me kind of teary because my mom grew up on a farm where they only had outhouses in Canada in the winter, and all the kids had to work on the farm all year long. And my dad grew up in Canada in the same way. We look at, they didn't know any better. No one taught them. No one helped them learn to be a loving parent. They were absolutely on their own with no one giving them that love. So they didn't know what it was like. And they're trying to do better. And then the big statement for me is they did the best they could. Because that's when they knew better, they did better. But when they were raising us, they did the best they could. They just didn't grow up in the, Leave It to Beaver household.
Yeah.
And so understanding that nobody taught my mother or father how to create a loving, tight family that felt worthy or valuable or anything. They learned that, hey, you know what? You're just one of 12 children and whatever happens, happens, but get back to work and, go tend to the farm. So we need to forgive, but it doesn't mean that we're making it okay. It doesn't mean that they were right in doing that. It means we understand and release them with love because they were doing the best they could. Once we get to that point, oh my gosh, it's just, I don't have to blame them.
Yes. That's so beautiful. In my recovery program, we say we do not blame or shame our parents because in some ways we have become them. And I do, like I said, I have to make amends to my son quite often when I hear that or feel that shame energy come through me. And it's just, I'm so sorry. But I what do you think of this image of, I'm picturing, because I want to do this hypnotherapy, or I don't know if it's called hypnotherapy, but this imagery that you brought up, I want to do that and walk that path. And that brick wall, I'm just saying, can I take each piece and say, thank you, you did your best, and actually take it with gratitude, because there are, sometimes when you have something to push against, like I have gratitude because the tension between my mom and I, you were saying you were kind of ignored. I didn't let my mom ignore me. And I was in her face all the time telling her, you don't love me. This is my earliest memory, like 3 and 4 years old, going, you don't love me. And her going, don't say that. And instead of, she wouldn't say, I love you. She would tell me, don't you say that. I'll give you something to cry about. She would say stuff like that. And, but we had this very fierce, but she gave me something to push against. And then I became the family clown. I was, whatever that was, maybe because I was a boy in my past life, I still had the entitlement. I don't know. Whatever it was, I used my voice. And I did make people laugh. And that's how that's the closest to love. That and an argument.
Yeah.
I love a good argument too. So I would argue with my mom. That was the closest thing to love with her. I would also... does that sound familiar?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Oh, because at least you're getting something. You're getting an interaction.
You're getting some
Oh,
passion. And then you mattered in that moment. Like, at least I mattered enough that I was irritating her enough to go to your room, even if that, it was like,
oh, you got attention.
yeah,
You got some attention.
or what about those of us who have a bit of I used to have this thing, I went to an SM workshop one time. I just say the spanking thing, like that, being spanked felt like love. So it was like,
wow.
that's,
Wow.
yeah, I know. Well, a lot of people have a spanking fetish, and that,
Yeah.
I wonder if kids today have timeout fetishes, like, ooh, baby.
Put me on timeout, please.
Yeah. Ooh, how long's my timeout? I'm getting so turned on. Okay. Okay, Wendi. But I was just thinking about that brick though. I have my grandmother embroidered a doorstop brick cover, and I'm going to go get a brick. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do a ritual around what you just shared with me, and I'm going to take each brick and I'm going to say, thank you. You did your best. Thank you. This worked for you. This is not mine. Yeah. This wall is not mine. This wall is yours. This wall is yours. Yes. Thank you for building it for me, but I don't need this anymore. Thank you. Like, how does that feel? Does that feel weird to have gratitude?
Absolutely. Yeah, you've got it. You definitely got it. So one of the things that I like to reinforce for people is that whatever you experience from that vision of your mom or anybody's parent, is that they can't give you what they don't have. And that's exactly what we've just been talking about. If my parents weren't brought up with attention or love, and that wasn't even a topic, it wasn't how do I love myself more and how do I build self-esteem? None of that was an issue. So they can't give you what they didn't have and what they don't have now. And that's where we can forgive them, because they didn't have those tools or that awareness or that self-love or anything. So for everybody listening, just keep remembering that all the trauma that you have from your childhood, they can't give you what they don't have. And that's where bringing down that wall turned into forgiveness on my part. And then looking at what my father inspired me to do without me even knowing. And I spend all this time being angry about all this. And now looking at the reason I'm where I'm at in my life is my dad was an amazing example of just grit, and he's going to accomplish things. Even though he has 5 kids, he's still going to hit the road every summer and go to these fairs selling the glass blowing that our whole family had to make, these stupid trinkets. And he did that, and no training from anybody. And of course, he didn't have self-esteem or self-worth growing up. He had nothing to base it on, but he created an amazing business where child labor, luckily, he would set up a booth in these malls. First, we were at fairs all summers, but then he would set up a mall at Christmas and have a booth in the middle of a mall that sold the glass blowing stuff. But with 5 kids, he had taught us all to be little entrepreneurs, and he would send each of us to a different mall to manage a booth. And I learned a lot. I was a teenager, and I was in charge of all this. But it was fine.
Wow. So you learned these skills. Did you also do the art, the glass blowing, or?
Oh yeah. We had these hollow swans that you put colored water in,
Oh, they're beautiful. I've seen those. Yeah.
I had to blow a lot of swans.
There it is. There's the traumedy we've been looking for.
But then my
honk. I feel honk if you like to blow swans.
Yeah, I think I was probably 16 or 17, and I can remember this one mall in Jacksonville, Florida, that I was in charge of. My dad wasn't there because he set all the mall things up and he did his own, but I had to be in charge of everything. And for some reason, I wanted to make glass penises. So
for some unknown reason.
So I made these.
Dude, that sounds beautiful. You made
3 inches. I still have one. But anyway, I would make these, like the penises were erect and they were sitting on the 2 balls kind of. So then I put them out on the counter for people to see. I don't know what I was thinking.
At the mall?
Yeah.
Oh, I love this. I'm loving this.
There's this whole, we had mirrors. All the glass went onto mirrors because it made them look better and sell better.
Yeah.
And so here I am 17 years old, and I got these penises, and there's these cops, these mall cops that would come by every day and chit chat and whatever, and they'd look at these penises, shake their heads, and finally, after a couple weeks of that, they came by and they said, "We finally figured it out, and how we can arrest you."
What?
And they said, they were joking, but they said, "It's fellatio. It's fellatio by proxy." A glass blower.
Oh, boom!
And I'm making penises. It was hilarious. They didn't.
But you had me scared for a minute because I thought, I mean, in Springfield, Missouri, you could get arrested for having penis. Where were you? What town were you in at this time?
That was Jacksonville, Florida. Horrible city.
God. Yeah. Well, sorry if you're in Jacksonville, but we're not a fan. We're not a fan of your town or your state. I'm going to speak for myself. But I mean, I love parts of it. Let's not throw the whole state out with the horrible.
It was a lot. It had a lot of crime back then. It was really bad. Like, my dad had built these booths that the facade of them was vinyl, so that they were really light, and you could take each section down and pack it away. But while I'm sitting on my torch doing my thing, I'm seeing this hand going through the front of the booth into my cash box. And it was some kid who slit the vinyl, and he was taking money out of my cash box. And I very quietly just turned my torch off and walked very slowly around, and I almost got that fucker. I ran through the mall after him. Oh, God.
Damn it. I was thinking, leave the torch on.
So Jacksonville. And then it was Christmas Eve, and I had to drive back to Boca Raton where my family lived. And I had everything personal packed into the car to leave as soon as Christmas Eve was done. And I go out to my car, and the windows are all busted and everything's stolen out of my car. So that's Jacksonville.
Welcome to Jacksonville, everybody. Well, when you have that level of experience, it's hard not to associate it with the whole, like, that name. But but your dad taught you these skills that at the time, of course, is not, you're like, I have to go sell glass swans and cocks.
Yeah.
I love that you made those on your own. So you were glass blowing in the mall. You were doing it live.
Yeah.
You would make stuff for people. That's so cool. So
were.
your dad didn't know you had these phallic objects on the. That is hilarious. And sitting, I can just see him so pretty, just sitting on one of those octagonal shaped, mirrors, that you can get stuff on.
Yeah.
Aw.
They were very small, though. They were just like 3 inches, maybe. They were tiny. They weren't like,
I was going to say, for some people that could be. That's who I have been putting it out to the loving universe that I'm looking for a man with a feminine heart and a very small penis, because that is all I can accommodate at this point in my life. So hey,
have you ever been with a man with a micro penis?
No, but I've been with.
You haven't been with men, really. But...
I have. No, my last partner was I had a boyfriend for 5 years, but he did not have a micro penis, and it was very painful. The other thing, but yes, I've been with a man with very, very small penis. I was a fan. But I've also been with women. So, anyway, I don't know. It just depends on what our needs are. But I want to do hypnotherapy with you. I have so many sessions lined up for us. I mean, I need to do sex therapy. Well, I have so much sex shame. And like I was saying, back in the day, I'm just now doing, have self-love. And what's up for me with my psychedelic trauma therapy, I just did an integration session, and she reads back to me things that I said under the influence of a lot of psilocybin. She was like, I want to be a lover. I want to be a lover, not just someone that's doing mutual usury, having sex. I want to have a full sex love relationship. And I think there's a part of my belief, there's some sort of whatever. I think my pelvic floor needs to relax. I need to do hypnotherapy to allow myself to be loved fully and not be in pain. I'm in pain with sex with men, and anyway, blah, blah, blah. I don't need to go into my whole thing, but I'm putting it out there. These are things you could help with, I bet. Do you?
Absolutely. And because my dad became, he once he was done with the glass blowing thing, he went to San Francisco to get his doctorate in human sexuality. And then I was living in San Rafael. So after classes, I would go meet with him and he'd tell me what he learned in school.
Wow. So he went from being a preacher to like studying
sex therapist. Yeah.
Wow.
And
that's a journey. That's a journey right there.
No, he came back from his class and we met in San Rafael at the restaurant to, have dinner or whatever. And since he was a preacher, he had a pretty loud voice, but we're sitting there at a table and he's telling me what he learned in school today, which was, he said, they have a big screen and they had a whole vulva up there and we were looking at it and everybody's like listening in the restaurant. Don't tell me what you learned in school.
While they're eating. I mean, some people I can, look at a vulva and enjoy their meal at the same visually. Some people can't. That's so wild. Funny, but that's an interesting. Well, what an interesting juxtaposition. Preacher to
from
sex
preacher's
therapist.
Daughter. Yeah. So that was good for him though, because then he freed himself from all the constraints that he had from his childhood. Of that sex is sinful and that you only do it for procreation, all that. So he freed himself from that and he counseled people on how to have a guilt-free sex life and to enjoy their sexuality.
Unbelievable.
Like, okay,
did that help
Dad,
you then? Did that free you up? I know. There's still a boundary. Our parents, it's never fun to, think of them as sexual beings sometimes, although that's how we got here. But what did that help you? Did that liberate your sexuality or get rid of some of it? Yeah.
A little by little.
Yeah.
There was a lot of stuff that held me back from being able to really enjoy the experience of sex. And I don't know how far back I learned it, but there was a lot of stuff that took me a few years to get past. And a lot of it was the hypnotherapy again, the sexual nature, because I make a lot of recorded sessions that are about you feeling really worthy of pleasure and sexual experience and heightening that experience. For men to not have impotence, for them to be able to last as long as they want, but to be really connected with their partner. So it's more than just a sexual experience. And oh man, but I learned so much of that from my dad. So thank you, Dad.
Yeah, thanks, Dad. To have fulfilling sex. And I'm of an age where part of me is going, well, should I just let it go? I'm postmenopausal. I'm taking estrogen and testosterone, because I'm non-binary. Anyway, I'm like, but seriously, but I think because I haven't had that fulfilling experience yet, I'm not ready. I feel like there's a part of me might physically going, Nance, why don't you just let that ship sail?
Yeah. Because you got stuff in your subconscious that's still keeping you there back in that, belief system.
Yeah.
Well,
and it's a desire that I had that didn't get fulfilled, to have the sexual, spiritual, emotional connection with a person.
Yes.
Like I haven't fulfilled that. There's something in me that feels like that's a birthright, that before I hang up my sexy panties, I don't know. What are your thoughts about, like, I know there are changes in women. Some women after menopause are still sexual. Some women aren't. I don't know. And then men are through their whole life. They have testosterone, although it fades if they're not supplementing it. I don't know. Do you have any?
Well, the men definitely have a harder time with getting erections and stuff, a little later in life. And for women, it becomes a little more difficult. Or we have enough past experiences that, like, okay, you know what, I'm done with that or something. We make a decision that that's not important. And it is important. It's critically important. I have a lot of sessions that are for sexual help for men and women, because I had the book that I wrote is Hypnotize Your Lover. And in that book, there's a whole bunch of things that are about sexual dysfunction and not being worthy of pleasure and things like that. So it's not just like how to, pop a boner or whatever. But I got very bold about it. I got a lot of publicity for it because I was bold enough because of my dad sitting in a restaurant talking about vulvas and penises and stuff. That I
Yeah.
thought, okay. So I started working with people in person, one-on-one, for sexual issues, and it was really rewarding because it's such a big part of our lives.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I had an email from a guy that said, "Can you help me?" Oh, this is so silly. Don't judge me yet. Um,
Okay. I love that you get these emails. Okay.
he said, "Can you help me make my penis bigger?" And I'm like, I emailed back and said, "I don't think so. I don't know that that's possible." But there's all this research on breast enlargement with hypnosis, and they've actually done clinical studies where they take a beaker of water, and to measure your breast, they have you dip your breast into the water to displace however much water, so that shows what size your breast is. And then they do hypnosis for breast enlargement. And this is research by several universities, believe it or not.
What?
So I thought, okay, well, if we can make breasts get bigger, maybe we can make penises get bigger. So this guy whose name is, maybe I shouldn't say.
I'm ready for it. Is it Dick? Is his name Dick?
No.
Richard?
James Taylor, but not that James Taylor.
Oh!
Not the one you're thinking of. There's lots of James Taylor.
What is that? But I know I truly. What is that song by James Taylor? I'm your handyman, or what is it?
Oh, I'm a steam engine, baby. I'm gonna rock all over you, or something.
No, wait. There's another one. But I heal broken hearts. Okay. All right.
So anyway, I make him a recording and send it to him, and then he was on a business trip for a month, and he's listening to it every day. And he got back to me when he got back with his wife from his business trip, and he said, I had a hard time getting it in because I have grown. I am longer and thicker than I was. And he was measuring too the whole time. Sent me all that information. I was like, damn,
That's
really?
wild. So
we can do that?
So that's the power of that is the power of the mind. That if we see ourselves this way or that way, it's so funny because I remember trying on bras when I first got a bra, and I was at the store with my mother. It was humiliating, and it was a training bra, and I tried to make a little joke because I was uncomfortable at the checkout because here I am, I'm a tomboy. First of all, such a tomboy, and then I'm getting a bra with a little flower on the center of it. It's like, ugh, I hated it. Back then we didn't have cool jog bras that like butch girls could wear. But anyway, so and I did cut that flower off as soon as I got home. But
that's a clue.
There was a clue.
No flowers for this lady.
No, a flower, and it also was larger than my breasts. So when you wore one of these like tight shirts, that we had in the 70s, the little like knit shirts, there'd be this bump in the middle, like it looked like a nipple in the middle of my chest. Anyway, cut that off.
Why is it a training bra? What are we training our boobs to do?
I got train our boobs. But so it was like whatever, double, triple A, Flatsy Patsy. That was my nickname, Flatsy Patsy. So I was buying it, and then my mom was buying it, and then I said, and she goes, and this will last, I can't remember how many, should last you a year or something like that. And I go, well, hopefully I'll outgrow it before I need another one. And my mom goes, don't hold your breath. And she had small breasts. So she kind of, so there you go. She put that knowing in me that I will have small breasts, which now I love my small breasts because I'm a long distance runner and they're much easier to manage and they're cute as hell. Okay.
Well, the thing that I have discovered that isn't my discovery is all the research I've done on how a dying cell hands its memory to the new cells. And if you change the memory of the current cells as they're dying off, We are changing the message, the information, the physical attributes of the cell that is being kind of born, right? So that's why I think that people can change their breasts or grow a bigger penis or something. And also overcoming other things like people get rid of scars because a scar shouldn't stay there because you're always getting new cells. So why does a scar stay there? It's because the memory of the cell. Um, and there's a lot of people big speakers who talk about this cellular memory and how it's passed on.
Yeah,
But that
like
cell,
Bruce Lipton, for example, because
yeah, yeah,
he was working on the human genome project, and he
yep,
found that what he had been teaching all those years about genetics was wrong. That it
yeah,
actually is about belief. That is a bigger impact on
yep,
cellular. Like if you believe, like because your parents had cancer, that you're not going to get cancer,
hmm
that's powerful. So if you believe, oh no.
yeah,
Anyway, I'm interrupting you
yeah.
and I'm reinforcing what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah. And Bruce Lipton has been a huge influence in my life. He and I have talked on the phone and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Just to
cool.
brag a little.
I
But
but
his Biology of Belief is his book that talks about how this happens with cellular memory. So anyway, so James Taylor, he said, I measured everything. It's bigger in girth and in length, and then he got in touch with me a few months later and said the size has stayed and it hasn't gone back or anything. And I enjoy sex more, and it just feels so much better to feel proud of myself and all these things. So he was the one that really started me on the path to men need a lot of help with their sex lives. And it's not just about the size of your penis, but it's not a terrible thing to have a little bigger one.
yeah, if you want, and if your partner
Yeah.
feels more with a
Yeah.
whatever, have the size you want. That's the message, right? What
Yeah.
makes you feel good about yourself. And there are the
Yeah.
men that have a micro penis. That's got to be in this
It's so
culture
sad.
devastating.
It's so sad. Oh, it's
Devastating. And then
terrible.
you
Yeah.
think about locker room and
Mhm.
humiliation and God, like that's your manhood,
Oh, yeah.
and
Yeah.
and I mean having small breasts was not as traumatic, I'm sure, even though people
Yeah.
did. And
Yeah.
now I've reclaimed the name Flatsy Patsy because that's the name of my favorite pillow, because any pillow that has any height, it hurts my neck. So I'm like, I travel with Flatsy Patsy. I'm like, Flatsy. I've left her in hotels and called like, FedEx, get FedEx. I need Flatsy Patsy.
It's funny. The research on breast enlargement was just so shocking to so many people, knowing, and they did hypnosis for that. And then measuring, the breasts and doing all that, just amazing. The power we have to change things in our body that maybe we've lived with, not just penises and breasts, but with anything.
What about my
Can,
lazy eye? What about my strabismus, where
right,
I don't
right.
have access to my binocular neurons for whatever reason, which I think is trauma related, but doesn't matter the cause. The point is, I believe I have monocular vision.
Right,
I'd love to
right.
try
So,
it for that. Wendy,
right, we can
I have so
release
many.
that belief and have your subconscious mind know that over a period of time that your eye came back to the most healthy, normal, best vision state, and we don't want to say I won't have a lazy eye. We want to get something positive to
Yeah.
be the message for the cells that are feeding your eye.
And I have
Well,
to.
I'm coming to Boulder. I'm just gonna
When are
go
you,
get on a plane right now.
okay? All right. I can't fly you in the front with your pajamas, but I give you permission to wear pajamas in economy.
Yeah.
In fact, Wendy, I double dare you to wear pajamas in the economy section.
Take a picture.
But and back to this really briefly, like the Inuit believe that children that are born with misaligned eyes are the visionaries. So there's a part of me,
Oh.
because there might be more that maybe I don't really buy into this 3D world. I don't know. But part of me is like, I got to meditate on, is it for the highest good that I have 3D vision? I don't know. I'm going to
Wow.
ask. I'd like to,
Wow.
though. I think it would help others while I'm driving. So
Wow.
make everybody safer.
Yeah, well, it's worth it. It's worth a shot because I have had all these miraculous things happen for my clients and for myself that I absolutely thought is not possible. And these things, happen and we change and we just have to know how to send the messages to parts of our body. Like phantom limb pain, if someone loses a leg or limb or whatever, and they have this pain that is in a foot that they don't even have. And it's because the brain is still trying so hard to regrow or feed that foot or
Right.
that part of your body.
Right.
And we can get the brain to stop doing that. And it's stopping that ferocious need to grow something back, and calm down and allow it to just imagine that the foot is already there, that it's still there, and have the brain imprinted with, oh, yeah, I still have my foot or my leg or my arm. And then no more phantom pain. It's just gone.
Beautiful.
So
And I'm
with your
thinking about the
eyes,
application
yeah.
for my eye, but also how many people have tinnitus or tinnitus, however you like to say it.
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
tinnitus, and they say that's a similar thing where the brain is sending signals about these sounds, but
Yeah.
I don't know how that starts, but I bet that's another thing you could work on with hypnosis, because that keeps people
Absolutely.
awake. That causes so much insomnia and
Mhm.
just, gosh, there's so many applications. You're going to be
Yeah,
busy. Do you still love doing the hypnotherapy? I know you've been doing it a long time.
Yeah, it's still fascinating to me. I still love doing research. I love enlightening people. I love speaking to groups to tell them about it, to train other hypnotherapists too. I get to go speak to big groups of hypnotherapists. And luckily, people really love learning from me because I am science based, but I'm also potential based. What is possible, even if you don't think it's possible, let's try anyway.
I love this. I love
Yeah.
your, and for people listening, how can they, how do they reach out to you?
Oh, it's so hard. You got to go to Wendi.com.
That's
But
how
it's
early.
Wendi.
That's how early you got that website, didn't you? That you
Yes,
got your
yes.
name. Who has their first name, and how do you
I
spell
know.
Wendi for people?
Well, it's Wendi with an I instead of a Y, so WENDI.com. Because back in the day, my 12-year-old nephew knew how to make a web page, but like nobody else did, I guess. So he made me a one-page web page, and he had these little icons, these little I don't know what you call them when they move a little bit, whatever that's
like
called.
a GIF or a GIF or something.
Yeah. So because I had the breast enlargement program, one of them was a boob from the side, and it just like got bigger, bigger, bigger. It was very tiny. It was the littlest thing. But I think my fame was from having that fucking tit on my website.
Great. I got it. Your
People
nephew's a genius. Great
Tell a
marketing. Great marketing. A growing boob.
Yeah, 12 years old, and he made this little boob that went boop, 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 boop.
And it
Oh
made
my
the sound.
God.
It made the sound of a boob when it got bigger. Boob, boob, boob. Well, I love connecting in a conversation, and thank you for this deep connection today and all the wisdom.
Yes.
So many
I've been
beautiful.
listening to your podcasts. Like, I'm just like rabid to listen to more of your podcasts. I am hooked on you.
Oh, good. Well,
So everybody out there, listen to her podcasts. There's so much to love and just learn from, and she's funny.
we have
know
funny
that.
moments, and
Yeah.
you're the first two-parter. There's so much here. And I mean, seriously, I think this is going to be a transformative episode for me because I feel a shift. I mean, I still have a lot of old beliefs that I need to change up,
Yeah,
so you're
yeah.
going to help me do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, how cool.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for,
yeah.
hey, and thanks for being a listener and a contributor to Traumedy.
Yeah. Thank you. This has been so much fun. Yeah. So, okay, I'll go pack my bags.
Okay.
See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Go look at her website. There's so many programs that she offers on there. It's Wendi, WENDI.com. Can you imagine just having your first name as your website? That's pretty cool. Wendi.com, WENDI. And I want to thank my son for this music. I want to thank the listeners. I'm so excited when a listener messages me and lets me know they have something that they think would be a contribution to the podcast. Thank you so much. All right, tune in next week, Traumedy Tuesday. And here it is, my dad singing Go Tell It on the Mountain at Messiah Lutheran Church, Springfield, Missouri, 1972, on a JCPenney recorder that I negotiated. I asked my mother when we were shopping for Levi's for school, because that's what, bell-bottom Levi's. I was getting some bell-bottom Levi's, and I said, Mom, could I just get one pair of jeans? Because I think I can make one pair of jeans work if I could get this tape recorder. And she did let me. So my mom, there were times she was cruel. There were times she was I felt seen and known and celebrated. So it's a complicated journey, isn't it?
When I was a learner, I sought both night and day. I asked the Lord to help me, and He showed me the way. Go tell it on the mountains, over the hills and everywhere. Go tell it on the mountains, our Jesus Christ is born. He made me a watchman upon the city wall, and if I am a Christian, I am the least of all. Go tell it on the mountains, over the hills and everywhere. Go tell it on the mountains, our Jesus Christ is born. Oh, tell it on the mountains, over